What's going on YouTube? This is Just My Opinion, and today I'm going to be reviewing Meek Mill's Dreamchasers 2. Meek Mill, the rapper from Philly, who before he took an L from Drake back in 2015, he was gaining a lot of buzz for his Flamer mixtape series from 2008 to 2010, which got him signed to MMG, which is Rick Ross's label Maybach Music Group. And from there, he immediately started jumping on features, jumping onto the compilation albums for Maybach Music Group, and started his own mixtape series, Dreamchasers, which led into his debut album, Dreams and Nightmares, which came out in 2012. This particular mixtape just so happens to be the most downloaded mixtape of all time, and I'll be completely honest, I've never really cared for Meek Mill. Never really understood what all the hype was about. I always thought his delivery was just very yelly. He was just rapping about money and bitches. He just sounded like everybody else production-wise that was jumping on this wave at this time. I never really cared for him, but for the sake of the review, I decided to give this and some of his other projects a second listen. And we get the intro track to start this one out, and this is Meek Mill personified. Beat is hard as fuck. Bass rumbling, great choir vocals mixed in with the heavy brass section that just gives off this epic atmosphere and vibe. And Meek Mill is just flowing hard and aggressive as fuck on this track. A good intro track to what we're gonna get and what we've been hearing from Meek Mill in the past. Then we get Ready or Not, which I thought was a good follow-up to the intro. This is definitely a standout track of mine. It actually sampled the Fugees' Ready or Not, but kind of modernized it, and it sounded really dope. Meek Mill was flowing well on this one, and you could sense his hunger, and he was painting a very good picture on this track of where he's kind of came from and overcome and where he wants to be. So overall, I thought it was just a really dope song. We then get Amen, which I was actually in college when these mixtapes came out, and let me tell you, this was playing everywhere. This was a straight up hit. The beat was dope, had some very nice piano and organ leads, kind of fitting in with the church Amen theme on the catchy chorus of the song. Meek did well, and Meek and Drake beef, Drake was featured on this, and his feature on this was dope as hell also. Then we get Burn, and this is another standout track of mine. Production wise, one of the hardest beats I've ever heard. The beat is straight up fire. The brass section on this is just menacing and aggressive as hell, and the bass is knocking, and Meek Mill and Big Sean, the way that they were actually splitting and going back and forth in their verses, just spitting bars, was so fucking dope. Big Sean, this is one of his best features I think he's ever done, period. Boom. Lil bitch. Then we get A1 Everything. Again, the beat was dope as hell and hard as hell. Meek Mill was rapping hard on this one. This actually featured a verse from Kendrick Lamar, and definitely not a feature that I expected Kendrick to do, or production that I expected Kendrick to ever rap over. Although his verse was good, I didn't think it was one of his better feature verses ever, and it wasn't necessarily a memorable moment as far as on this project in particular, in my opinion. Then we get Used to Be, which I really like this song as well. It's a switch up sonically goes, kind of has this slurry R&B vibe to it. Whoever the lead singer was that was doing the hook on this song absolutely killed it. He kind of reminded me of R. Kelly almost. I kind of got that vibe as far as his singing style. And Meek Mill just sounded very hungry on this one. Then we get Flexing, which is easily, hands down, my favorite song on this whole mixtape. The beat on this is stupid fire. The pianos on this have like this eerie horror film type sound, and then the brass and bass and the kicks and snares come in, and it's just so heavy, and Meek is flowing harder than ever on this. Catchy hook, To me, this is a perfect pump-up song, a perfect song that could get anybody amped and jacked up. One more! One more! We then get I Get It, which beat-wise was a little bit weird, a little bit of a switch-up, had this interesting like Spanish guitar sample in there. But Meek still sounded very aggressive, very hungry on this one. This one actually featured Travis Scott as well. Pre-Astroworld Travis Scott. I don't know why. He sounded a lot like Wale on this track. We then get Every Day, which again, another trunk rattling beat. The leads on this kind of had this very eerie vibe to it, which I really liked. This one in particular actually featured Rick Ross, which I'm surprised that this was the only song that featured Rick Ross on the mixtape, considering on the last Dreamchasers he was on 4 songs. And he only did the hook on this song. It didn't even get a verse. Then we get Racked Up Shorty, which is the epitome of why I did not like Meek and why some of these songs that came out during this time I just did not fuck with. Sounded like every other Lex Luger sounding beat during this time. The hook was weak, and neither Fabulous or French Montana could do anything to really save the overall vibe of this track for me. Then we get Lean With It, which again has another super hard, menacing beat, catchy chorus, and Meek is just flowing super hard, super aggressive on this one. And the more and more I was listening to this mixtape, I realized that this, even though this yelling kind of aggressiveness that he was doing throughout his career, I didn't care for at first. So I realized this is the type of stuff that you have to be doing over production like this, that is as hard and as aggressive as this. Then from here we get Big Dreams, which production wise was a little bit more mellow actually than some of the other stuff we've been hearing throughout this mixtape. Kind of reminded me almost something that Rick Ross would jump on. A little bit smoother, but still had enough oomph and aggression to it that Meek could go in and spit hungry on, and again give us a nice picture of his struggle as far as him struggling growing up and coming up. And I thought he did a great job on this song of doing that. Then we get Take You Home, which is kind of supposed to be a song for the chicks, which was okay. The one thing I liked is the wonder if I take you home, would you still be in love, baby? I think this production style really fit Wale very well, who was featured on this. And he, to me, always kind of seemed like the odd man in the MMG Maybach Music group. But this type of production, this type of sound and style fits him very, very well. Then we get The Ride, which is a freestyle over Drake's song The Ride, featuring The Weeknd, which was on my favorite Drake project of all time, Take Care. He did good, but sorry, that song is just fucking amazing. The original, it has nothing. This version has nothing on the original. Then we get Face Down, which is another song, I guess, for the chicks. Had an interesting beat to it, like the cold, reverby synth sounds in there. The 2 people I think that stole the show on this song, though, were Sam Sneaker, who did the chorus and the actual beat of the song, and Trey Songz on the second verse rapping. I was very surprised. Thought he was going to be singing, and he actually sounded really good rapping. Then we get Straight Like That, which to me just sounded like a complete Waka Flocka ripoff, but just way worse. The hook was weak. 2 Chainz verse, I love 2 Chainz. I thought his verse was good, but unfortunately I just did not think that it was enough to be able to save this song for me. I just was not feeling it. Then we get the House Party remix, which is a standout of mine. The original was on the first Dreamchasers mixtape. This one is a banger, immediate party starter. White girls go wild! When I tell you this was at every college party when it came out, it was at every fucking college party when this came out. The original was a straight up banger, and this one is just as much of one. Meek, Wale, and Mac Miller all killed their verses. Rest in peace, Mac. Still can't believe you're not here. But Fabulous fucking killed this song. Then we get Real, which production-wise had a little bit more of a boom bap sound to it than it did kind of like a trap sound. Meek was, rapping well on this. But at this point in the album, I was just kind of getting over it. Then we get On My Way, which to me had kind of like an old school Just Blaze type of sound and feel as far as the beat wise goes. This song also kind of sounded like a leftover from the first Dreamchasers, kind of had a similar sound and feel to Won't Stop and Get This Money, just a little bit worse. But still overall a good song. And finally we get the outro, another hard beat that Meek is just going in on. But I think overall the mixtape actually would have sounded best if it ended with On My Way as opposed to this outro track. So in conclusion, by the halfway mark of this mixtape, I thought that the overall production, the themes, and the overall feel was just getting kind of repetitive. This was kind of why I didn't like Meek at first as well. I just thought that he was rapping a lot about the same stuff over the same beats, same flows, same delivery, that yelly delivery, kind of trying to sound like everybody else. But re-listening to the first Dreamchasers and this, I do think the first Dreamchasers is still by far better and his best project overall. But I do think that this is easily his second best project that he's ever released. But what I didn't realize at first about Meek Mill when he was coming out is even though he was kind of fitting into the same lane as a lot of the other rappers doing this sound and style at the time riding this wave, his production, his flows, his lyrics, his delivery, and just overall the songs were actually much better than everyone kind of coming out and doing this same type of sound during this time period. So I was finally starting to realize after listening to this a few times recently and the other Dreamchasers kind of what the hype was all about as far as Meek Mill. And I'm glad I did because I do think that he actually does have some decent music in his discography. So overall, I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. Remember, this is just my opinion, and thank you for watching YouTube.